If you ever thought about traveling by train, then stand by because this video is just for you. Hi, I'm Alan, and I want to welcome you to Pleasure Tripping. This is a channel all about the adventures of train travel. And I guess I should ask, have you ever traveled by train? Now, I'm not talking about one of those little kiddie rides that you take at an amusement park, or the last time you went to a national park and they put you on one of those pioneer trains and tried to reintroduce you to the Wild West. I'm talking about a real long-distance train trip, passenger train trip. So if you've never done that, then I want you to listen up because this video is all about the adventure of train travel. Now, before we get started, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. That'll make sure that you get all the future updates and you'll get all the information about any future trips that we have planned or new videos that are coming out. And it won't cost you anything. There's no cost to subscribe. In addition, you can leave your comments and your questions about train travel. Maybe this video sparks some questions. Leave us information about what you want to know about traveling by train. I recently took a long distance trip by train. Now, this is my first solo long distance journey, and I took it all by train. It was like 5,000 miles, and I went through a lot of major cities. I went through 12 different states, and we never left the US. So it was a very extensive journey. But when I started sharing my plans and telling everyone about my trip, I got an interesting reaction from people. I expected negative responses or thoughts, but the first question that came up with me, or the first reaction that they had was, "I've always wanted to do that." And I'm like, then do it. What are you waiting for? And people were asking me, well, would you do it again? Let me tell you, I already have. I didn't take a long distance trip the second time, but I have since traveled by train. And I want to tell you a little bit about the experience of journey and taking a trip of this nature by train. And when I started sharing my plans with family and friends, and they basically had two reactions. The first one was, why are you traveling by train? Well, it started out as a plan to go see my grandkids. And they recently moved to Denver. I live in Central Texas, and I started Google mapping the drive, and I thought, holy mackerel, that's 800 miles. And I thought about, wow, I'm not a young man anymore, and all the things that could go wrong, accidents, breakdowns, or just the physical wear and tear as you take that kind of a journey. And flying was an option, but I had flown so much when I was in business and traveled virtually from all of the US and Europe. And I was like, I hate the TSA lines. I hate going, getting there 2 hours early. I hate, it's like taking a whole crowd of people and stuffing them into a tube and shooting you off to the next city. And it's all about transportation. It's not an adventure. And I didn't want a trip. I wanted an adventure. And the more I thought about it, it made more sense to travel by train than even to drive or to fly. And what started out as an adventure just to go see my grandkids, it took me to Chicago, then to Denver, San Francisco, Los Angeles, down the west coast to LA, and eventually back across the desert all the way to Central Texas. And it ended up being a 5,000 mile trip through 12 different states. And I can tell you, it was one of the most exciting adventures that I ever had as a vacation. Another reaction that friends and family had as I talked about my trip, they really wanted to know, is it really that different to travel by train than, say, driving in a car or going on an airlines? Well, I lived in Europe for a number of years, and I really fell in love with train travel. And it's, traveling by train or getting in your car and going somewhere, it's all about getting from point A to point B. It's all about, transportation and getting there as quickly as you can. But train travel was more of an adventure. The journey is half the adventure. And when you travel by train, and all the while that you're doing this, somebody else is doing the driving. And it's a lot more fun when you're a passenger than when you are the driver. So I discovered there was much more to traveling by train than just getting to my destination. I mean, you can enjoy your trip from the comfort of a beautifully comfortable seat, looking at the scenery as it goes by through a large glass window and you get to see things that you would never see from interstate highway. Most of the trains follow routes that don't parallel an interstate highway, and you can't see the kind of sights that you see on a train through a little plain portal that's about this big. And while you're traveling, you can sit there and read a book. You can look at a movie on your laptop. You can talk to somebody on your phone or text with someone if you're in texting distance of them. Or, hey, you can take a nap and just enjoy the nice, quiet travel atmosphere. And not only that, but you can enjoy a luxury dinner while you travel, prepared by a professional chef. And you go to the dining car, they got the white linen tables and a rose on your table. You order your meal. It's as nice as any restaurant that you will eat at, and the food is Michelin rated quality. And after dinner, you can go to the observation lounge and relax in a car that has beautiful cushy seats, and it has windows from floor all the way to the ceiling, and you can just watch the countryside go by and see all the beautiful sights as you travel through the Rockies or down the coastline. Along the way, some people get tired of sitting often and they want to stretch their legs. So you can get up, you can walk from one end of the train to the other, get a little bit of exercise on 2 different levels, by the way, and you can't do that on an airplane. And if you want to snack along the way, they have a cafe car that is full of snacks and drinks and even light meals like hamburgers and hot dogs and those kind of things. So, and all the while that you're doing this, you don't have to stop at any gas stations to experience this. Somebody else is doing the driving. And every now and then, though, there is a station stop. Of course, they stop along the way wherever you're going to pick up other passengers, let other passengers off. And most of the stops are 5-10 minutes, just long enough to board and deboard passengers. But there are some stops that last a little bit longer because they have to refuel the train, they have to resupply the train, they have to change out the crew. And so you can have a stopover that's over an hour long. You can get off and walk up and down the platform and enjoy some fresh air, enjoy the sights of a place that you never planned on visiting, but you get to see some of the most beautiful sights in local areas that you never planned on enjoying. Now that is what I call a journey. It's not just a trip, it's an adventure. And everyone, one of the things I didn't expect was that everybody on the train, I'm not talking about the conductors and the staff, I'm talking about the other passengers, were friendly. And they wanted to know, hey, where are you from? Where are you headed? Is this your first trip on a train? And so you meet so many new people and new experiences, and you can't do that while you're driving a car. One of the things that I also discovered by traveling on a train is that in some ways, it's more convenient than other forms of transportation. If you've flown very much, you know that most airports, larger international airports especially, are built way on the outskirts of the city. So when you arrive at your destination, you've got to take a taxi or an Uber or something to get into the heart of the city because you're way out on the outskirts. And that can cost you $65, $70 in transportation fees. But most train lines were established well before the automobile was ever created. And so the stations, many of the stations, especially in the larger cities, are right in the heart of the city. Chicago's Union Station, for example, is right in the heart of downtown Chicago, a beautiful area. Los Angeles Union Station, for example, is right in the heart of downtown LA, right beside Chinatown. And if you go to San Antonio is the station is about 2 blocks from the Riverwalk, which is one of the most popular destinations in Central Texas. New Orleans Station, for example, is just a few blocks from the French Quarter. You could take a trolley to get to the French Quarter. It's very quick, very convenient, and very close by. Now, if you've never traveled by train, travel by train is much more than just transportation. It's more than getting from point A to point B. And being semi-retired, I'm not in any hurry to get anywhere. So I have a lot of time, and train travel does take a little bit more time than plane travel or driving. In my opinion, though, train travel it's a form of transportation that's been lost to impatience. That's why Americans don't watch soccer. They are impatient about watching that kind of sport on television. They think it's boring. They want instantaneous gratification. And we're not about just getting to our destination. I'm about finding an adventure and making the trip a part of that adventure. Take some time, relax, enjoy the journey, not just getting to the destination. Let me fill you in a little bit about what you might be missing by not traveling by train. And if you think train travel was not luxury, you're right. It's not luxury travel, but it is safe, it is convenient, and it's comfortable to travel by train. You will have a seat that is wider than almost every airline seat you'll find. In fact, it's more like first class seating than it is like coach seating on an airlines where you're bumping elbows with the guy next to you, fighting over the armrests. And in fact, most of the seating has been recently upgraded to nice, comfortable leather seats. And you have the kind of legroom that you will never find on an airplane. Most airlines, legroom in coach, between the seat you're sitting in and the seat in front of you, 28 inches is the average. On Amtrak and on the trains here in the U.S., the average is 50 inches between the seat you're sitting in and the seat in front of you. And it's a comfortable seat. It will recline almost like your lazy boy back home, much more than just the simple little tilt that you get in an airlines. This seat will lay well back, and not only that, but there's a footrest that will pop up and around at your feet, kind of like your lazy boy does, and you can stretch out and enjoy your trip in comfort. And if you want to see the sights, there's not a little bitty tiny porthole that you scrounge to look through, and the guy next to you is looking out the porthole and you can't see a thing. No, you're looking through a 3-foot by 3-foot crystal clear glass that you can see all of the sights. And if you're tired of the sunshine, you want to take a little nap, or it's getting in your eyes, there's a sunlight blockout curtain that you can pull closed and it won't bother you at all. Airlines have gotten really picky over the last few years about how many bags you can check and how many bags you can carry on, even charging you for carrying your bags. On Amtrak, you can check per passenger up to 2 large suitcases. And I had a 29-inch suitcase, and that's a full-size suitcase. And you can check 2 of those per passenger on the train. And if you don't want to check them, you can bring them on board, and they have a place to store them right there on the train in a designated storage area. And you can bring carry-ons, 2 carry-ons per person, plus a personal bag. And when I talk about a personal bag, I'm talking about like a briefcase or a backpack or a large purse, and you can even bring snacks and food with you. I took a little duffel bag and visited a local supermarket before I left home and filled it up with these little prepaid sandwiches and salads and all kinds of fruits and snacks to take along with me. In fact, you can bring a small cooler if you want and even bring drinks. So there are a lot of advantages when you travel by train. And you're going, not only that, but if you really want comfort travel, to travel in a first class style on a train, get a sleeping car. There are sleeping cars that will seat up, they start at two people, the spaces for two people, and you can go up from that to passenger car for four, which not only will have the car, but it will also have your own personal bathroom and shower and so forth. And you can, in some trains, if you have a large family, you can even get adjoining cars or adjoining sleeper compartments to have up to 8 people in those two compartments that are joined together. They even have handicap accessible sleeper cars as well. Now, these are very comfortable sleeping arrangements. They're spacious, place to store your bags. They even have a closet to hang up some of your jackets and small clothes. They have towels, washcloths, everything you can need for your journey. They have a sink and basin, everything you would need. And not only that, but if you get a sleeper car, all your meals, and we're talking about the traditional and flexible dining meals that are prepared in this luxury dining car, those are all included. And when you count that up, that is about $100 a day if you were to buy those meals individually per person. So not only do you get a place to rest and sleep and in comfort, but all your meals are included. And if you don't want to go to the dining car, they'll actually bring the food to you. Room service. How about that you don't get that on an airplane, in your own private location, your own private room. And if you decide to go to Denver, if you decide to go to dinner, when you get to dinner, after dinner, you come back to your room, and your personal attendant has laid out all the bunks, done a beautiful turn down service for you, and you're ready for a relaxing evening. So I'll bet that you've learned something about train travel that you've never thought about before. What have you learned? In fact, write to me in the comments and let me know something that you learned that you never knew about before this video. And not only that, but if you have questions about train travel, you have questions about my trip in general, please send me a message and let me know. I'll answer every one of those. But until then, I'm going to challenge you, book that next vacation trip by train. You won't regret it. All aboard.